What is up? Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles now. The NFL trade deadline is in the rear view, but the coverage does not stop here on the program, and there's a lot to get to here. The Eagles made a couple of roster moves after the deadline. Howie Roseman spoke with the media today about all of the moves that he's made over the last week, and we're going to recap what was a wild day across the National Football League, a couple of shocking blockbuster trades across the league here today. We've picked up so many subscribers of late, and I just want to say thank you to all of the real ones out there. We're already up to 135,535 subscribers. If you want top-notch Eagles coverage every single day, year-round, right here on YouTube, join the movement, hit that sub button, but also hit that bell icon, turn on your notifications. Therefore, anytime I push out a video like this, anytime we go live, like for a regular live show, we were live earlier, we'll be live tomorrow, live for our watch party on Monday Night Football against the Packers, you will get that push notification. Eagles roster moves, let's begin there. Philadelphia today opening up the practice window for edge rusher Nolan Smith. It's great to have number 3 back. The contagious energy that he plays with, how good he is with the bend, explosiveness, and his speed as a pass rusher, and his ability with toughness, despite that lack of size, to set the edge against the run, all valuable traits and components for Vic Fangio's defense here. And if you remember, he had that awesome playoff run for the Eagles last year, 6 sacks in the regular season, 4 more in the playoffs. He led all players throughout the postseason, but then he tore his triceps in the Super Bowl. Then in week 3 against the Los Angeles Rams, he re-injured that triceps injury. Now, his recovery from that triceps was pretty quick. He was on the field early in training camp, and he was obviously able to start the regular season, but he hurt that triceps again against the Rams in that crazy comeback victory for Philadelphia, and then he was placed on injured reserve prior to week 4. He's eligible to return this week against the Green Bay Packers, and I think you'll see number 3 in that Eagles uniform in primetime at Lambeau Field, the cathedral professional football, because he had even put on his Instagram page recently, 1 more week and then I'm back. And so the Eagles' pass rush has been a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde unit this year. They've definitely gotten some good pressure and production from the interior with Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and Moro Ajomo. Moro Ajomo leads the Eagles in sacks, but their edge pass rush production has been a little bit lacking. And so getting Nolan Smith back is going to boost that. They make the trade for Jalen Phillips in exchange for a 3rd-round pick, and then obviously Brandon Graham came out of retirement. And so this Eagles edge rusher rotation, a pretty damn good one in my opinion. Nolan Smith, Jalen Phillips will be your starters. Jalix Hunt and Josh Uche will be your backups. And then Brandon Graham will be that 5th pass rusher. Nolan Smith, despite not having a sack to start the year, did play pretty well. And that energy that he plays with, obviously that's contagious to the rest of the defense. But he also brings some pop and physicality to the edge rusher spot too. Overall PFF grade in 3 games of 74, pass rush grade of 67.5, the run defense grade, he's an underrated run defender, 71.5. He had 8 pressures and 7 hurries. And you combine him with Jalen Phillips, physically, it's a very intriguing edge rusher combo on top of Jalix Hunt and what he can bring with his athleticism as a former safety. Hunt has 16 pressures over the last 3 games, and Phillips can play inside, he can play outside, and since week 3, he's been one of the most productive, disruptive, and dynamic pass rushers in football. John Clark of NBC Sports Philadelphia caught up with him at the airport last night on Monday night as he made his trip to Philadelphia to join the Eagles, and he said, I'm not lying, I wouldn't want to be with any other organization than the Eagles. The winning tradition that they have, and a team back up with Vic Fangio. Back in 2023, Jalen Phillips had 6.5 sacks in 8 games when Fangio was the coordinator. 2 other roster moves for the Eagles here. Had an indication this was going to happen because the Eagles needed to make moves on the 53. Brandon Graham, going into the deadline, was officially a member of the 53, but they wanted to activate Nolan Smith. Jacorian Bennett as well is another player where we might see another roster move that the Eagles have to make. And so one of those roster moves, releasing Patrick Johnson from the active roster. I'm almost certain he has to go through waivers. If he goes through waivers, I imagine the Eagles bring him back as a depth piece at edge rusher. And then on the practice squad, the Eagles release wide receiver Terrace Marshall. I imagine that's for Patrick Johnson. Of course, on this deadline day, Howie Roseman didn't make another trade on this Tuesday. But over the last calendar week, he was extremely active. He made that trade for Michael Carter II. That came, on Wednesday of last week. Traded for Jair Alexander on Saturday, and then traded for Jalen Phillips early on Monday morning. And so Howie, for the first time since making those three moves, spoke with the media here today, and he recapped a couple of the things that he was able to do and the why behind these moves and what the Eagles see in the players that they are bringing in. For Jair Alexander, obviously a former two-time second-team All-Pro, didn't play a lot with Baltimore. When he did play, he struggled. He's been dealing with a lot of injuries of late. The Eagles definitely showed some interest in Alexander earlier this offseason. Howie Roseman even said that, and he thought that when he signed with Baltimore, a one-year, $4 million deal, that deal between Baltimore and Alexander was a great one. So the Eagles liked him before, and they prioritized trying to trade for him as a veteran corner to add depth to the cornerback spot. But Howie also mentioned how Alexander is teaming back up with Christian Parker. They were together in Green Bay, and that familiarity is good. And Howie did say that Alexander is starting to get healthy again. We'll see some conflicting reports on where that knee is. For Michael Carter, Howie said he can play safety. And I've talked about this before. That's an underrated element of this trade, is that he's played elite high-level ball on the inside, 85% of his career snaps in the slot. But with his playing style, his ability to go up against the run and be stout against the run, which Vic Fangio loves from the slot corner spot, he could play safety. And Howie Roseman mentioned that. There's a lack of safety depth, plus it just gives you more optionality at that spot. Howie also referenced how in the first half of the season, with some of the injuries that the Eagles had, he noticed and realized, and this Eagles organization did, how valuable cornerback depth is. As far as an A.J. Brown trade, I always told you, Eagles were never trading A.J. Brown. It doesn't make sense to get rid of an elite player, plus the cap hit is too high. And if you're trying to win a Super Bowl, why would you get rid of one of the top three wide receivers in football? And Howie echoed that. He said, it's hard to be great without a great player. And he said that A.J. Brown is a captain for a reason. On the Jalen Phillips trade, he said, we have things in place and a thought process for what makes us an elite team and how we can win championships. He's referencing the pass rush. Look at what the Eagles did against Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, right? 16 pressures, 6 sacks. They didn't blitz once. And he said the Jalen Phillips trade was not a hard trade to make because it can help us get to where we want to get to, and it helps us with that pass rush. Now, coming up next year, just around the corner, going to recap everything that transpired on one of the more memorable NFL trade deadline days in recent memory. Let's get to our sponsor. Today's Philadelphia Eagles Now, brought to you by our friends at Chubby's. Use that promo code CHATSPORTS for a phenomenal deal so that you can enhance your wardrobe. Fellas, do you want to look sharp when you meet the family this holiday? Sometimes that can be daunting. If you look good, feel good, not as daunting. Well, you've got to check out our friends over at Chubby's. From family dinners to holiday parties, Chubby's has you covered. So you can focus on being yourself and letting the good vibes roll. Their stuff is so comfortable, it should come with a warning label. I'm telling you, as the temperatures drop and the weather gets grim, their flannels, pullovers, and quarter zips keep you warm, stylish, and ready for anything. From freezing your tail off at the football game, to crushing donuts at the pumpkin patch, to holding court around the bonfire. This holiday season, spread cheer and a little bit of drip with Chubby's. Perfect for upgrading your own winter rotation or gifting that one person who already has everything, something. So, we have a phenomenal deal. And let me tell you about it. For a limited time, Chubby's is giving our listeners 20% off your purchase at Chubby's with the promo code CHATSPORTS at checkout. But if it's Black Friday, skip the code and take advantage of even bigger markdowns during their exclusive Black Friday sale. It's going to be here before we know it. Just head to chubbyshorts.com/chat. Use the code CHAT. Make sure to support our show and tell them that we sent you. If you're the type of guy who gets around, Chubby's Everywhere pants should be in your top drawer. We'll put that link down below in the show notes and attached to the pinned comment of today's Philadelphia Eagles Now. All right, other moves across the NFL here today. Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys were very active in the morning. They traded for linebacker Logan Wilson of the Cincinnati Bengals. He started a lot of games, and he's a team captain with Cincinnati. The Cowboys get him for a 2026 7th-round pick. That defense has been one of the worst units in the NFL. Logan Wilson should help at least a little bit, although it's not a needle-moving type of move. I like this trade for both teams, both the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Las Vegas Raiders. Jacoby Myers in the final year of his contract, but the Jags did lose Travis Hunter, most likely for the season with that knee injury. And so the Jags bring in Myers. They're obviously in a spot where they might be able to make the playoffs year one under Liam Cohen. And the Raiders get a 4th-round pick and a 6th-round pick for a player who was unhappy and a player who I don't think was going to return to Las Vegas. The Jets, also very active today. They made 2 blockbuster moves. They trade cornerback Sauce Gardner after just paying him to the Indianapolis Colts in exchange for 2 first-round picks, 2026 and 2027, and Adonai Mitchell, the wide receiver, who was a 2nd-round pick whose game I really like coming out of Texas. Colts going all in this year. I like this under-the-radar move for Seattle. In fact, this might be my favorite trade of the day. The Seahawks add Rashid Shaheed, one of the more underrated, electrifying playmakers in the NFL at wide receiver, who's a threat to rip the top off of the defense and get vertical. They add him to Jackson Smith-Njigba, who leads the NFL in receiving yards, and Torrey Horton and Cooper Kupp once he comes back. Sam Darnold playing really well. The Saints get a 4th-round pick and a 5th-round pick in 2026. The Seahawks are for real, and they're a scary team with how good that defense is. The Bears trade for a pass rusher after they lost one to a torn Achilles, Joe Tryon, going from Cleveland to Chicago. He was a former 1st-round pick by Tampa Bay. And then the Cowboys making another massive move. They trade for Quinnen Williams. They send the Jets Mozzie Smith, who Cowboys fans thought was going to be better than Jalen Carter. Okay, classic delusion from Cowboys fans. The Jets also get a 2026 2nd-round pick and a 2027 1st-round pick. The Cowboys' rushing defense has been putrid of late. That's why they wanted to bring in Kenny Clark in that Micah Parsons trade. Quinnen Williams has been a truly elite one-of-one run defender this year, so that'll help Dallas, but they're so far away, in my opinion, from being competitive in the future. And obviously right now, they're 3-5-1, and Quinnen Williams is due a lot of money over the next couple of years. 2026 and 2027, he has cap hits of more than $20 million. The Chargers, desperate for some offensive line help. They bring in a former 1st-round offensive lineman in Trevor Penning in a move with the Saints. The Saints get a 2027 6th-round pick, and then a late move about an hour after the deadline had passed. The Jets get Jasir Taylor, the cornerback, and the Chargers get a 2028 conditional 7th-round pick. So busy few days for the Eagles, busy day across the NFL. We'll be live tomorrow on Philadelphia Eagles Now. Look forward to hanging out with all of you. We'll see you then. And in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe.